Well, Happy New Year to you. My name is John. Thank you for being a part of the Christian Media Marketing Show. Whether you are listening to this through the podcast or you're going to be watching it, either way, welcome. It is my pleasure. It is my joy to be able to spend some time with you. And I am praying in this new year that God will use you and all of the people out there trying to make Jesus famous, that he will use all of us for his glory. One of the big things that I'm hoping for is that we together can find a synergy and a real sense of teamwork. And that's one of the things that I've been most encouraged about as I've been doing this now for a few years, just specifically working with Christian ministries, with mission teams, with churches, is the sense of teamwork. How people are working together and sharing, how they are, what I say a lot, staying in their swim lanes at times. In other words, doing what they do really, really well and partnering with others who maybe have a different skill or a different area where they are leaning into it. I'm seeing this with media groups, with people who are creating the media, with different people out there who are working with teams, trying to teach them how to create local media, which is really, really important. I'm seeing that on the marketing side of people sharing what's working, what's not working, of sharing ad ideas, of people sharing training, even just sharing resources, of financial resources with others. I get messages here at Kavanaugh Media from different people saying, hey, we have this and we've had this excess. Do you know of people who could use it? Or people reaching out saying, we really need this, and being able to connect them together to be able to see that we can expedite, Lord willing, his return. Now, in 2022 here, one of the things about this show that we're going to be doing a lot more is that in the past, this Christian media marketing, the podcast specifically, has grown, and there's been a tremendous amount of people who are listening to it and reaching back out to us, and I am very honored to be able to be a part, just a part. There's so many others that are out there that are playing a very integral part to it, who are doing a lot of training and doing coaching, and so I recognize that we're just playing a part in that. But one of the things that I really have been really just humbled by with this is the people then that reach out who have questions, who are reaching out about, okay, how do we do this or that or whatever. And part of the challenge of that is that social media marketing specifically is constantly changing. Facebook and Instagram constantly changing. In fact, here in a few days, in January, right in about the 19th or so, they're going to start changing how we can do interest targeting. And one of the big ones will be the area to target religiously, or some of those faith-based ones. And I don't have the list yet. I don't know what it's going to look like. We will talk about it. We're going to dive into it together. But when all of these things are changing all of the time, that's one of the big burdens that I have with this show, is trying to make sure that I'm giving you the most up-to-date information, answering questions that people ask. Secondly, I meet some amazing people out there, and I love to be able to share their testimonies, their stories with you. Some of them will be on video. Some of them, we just can't do that for security reasons, but I still want to be sharing their story as much as possible with you. So as this has grown, one of the things that's been important to me has been to understand that we did a live training in 2021, and I think it was good, but it also increased the workload for me to do the podcast as well as doing the video training. And one of the things that I heard back from people was they were still watching it when they wanted, which is great. So the live element was great for me to keep me doing it, but it was not a tremendous benefit to you all. But the video trainings took off. I mean, there's hundreds of people watching these video courses. So I'm wanting to combine those together so that you can listen to the podcast. And if it's something with a lot of video or you want to see examples of it, you go to our website, kavanaughmedia.com. And you can watch it there, or you can go to our YouTube channel and watch the trainings there as well. You can even subscribe to it and be notified when it comes out. Now, the plan, Lord willing, as always, is it to come out each Friday, 1:15 in the morning. It's not that I'm up then. That's just when it's going live and becoming available. And that's so that those of you over in the European and further areas, you wake up in the morning, maybe you can drink a cup of coffee or tea or whatever it might be, and listen or watch, or both, of this training and the podcast and the audio and all these things, the video, each week. All right, so that's the prayer. And so as we start a new year together, I wanted to start with a training. This is going to be a 2-part training, so this week and then next week, to talk about an area that I think is really important, and to talk about a tool that to me is very important. As an agency, this is one of those things that when we work with people, we are asking them, do you have this? And what I'm speaking of is Google Tag Manager. Now, Google Tag Manager is a free tool, and it has been out there for quite a while. It's actually just a really great tool that Google themselves have provided that give us so much more information and helps you and me be able to, well, we don't have to constantly be going in and adding code to our website, okay? And so you put code on your website one time, and then you go into Google Tag Manager and you can add all sorts of enhancements to the data and the analytics specifically of what's happening on your website without having to go in. Now, we use it a lot because it allows us to go in and check Facebook Pixel, Google Analytics. Maybe you're wanting to see how long a person's on your site, or did they watch a video, or how far on the page did they scroll. So there's so much of this that can be done or enhanced by using Google Tag Manager. It's a little bit of a learning curve to this, and so one of the things I would hope that you would do is to watch. If you're listening to this, maybe click in there and watch some of the video training to it. But it's important for you to press buttons as well. Be pressing buttons, play with things, and that's one of the beautiful parts of Google Tag Manager is that you can run a debugging. I don't know what that would be. A debugging mode that would allow you to test out different types of tags and triggers and variables and stuff. And I'll explain what those are here in just a little bit. If you are wanting to enhance some of your data with tools like Hotjar or Crazy Egg, which we've talked about on the podcast before, those are tools that let you see what people are doing on your website. That will let you see basically a heat map on your website to see, are people even pressing on that button? Are they looking? Are they getting to the bottom of your page? Maybe you buried your call to action way low and they're never even getting to it. So those are tools that allow you to see more. Maybe you're using Google Ads and you can use Google Tag Manager to enhance the remarketing and the retargeting. Google Analytics, an important tool to be able to really dive into the data to see what's happening. So Google Tag Manager is an extremely important part of what we do in Kavanaugh Media, and so of the tools that we use. Now, there are several benefits to it. It is very easy in one sense to get updates to it, to be using it. Really, once you learn the flow of it, it's not hard to do. There's a tremendous amount of templates and built-in tags themselves to it. So you can look in there and see that it's very possible that something that you're wanting to enhance your website with or your analytics with is already built. There's ways to, as I said earlier, to debug and to do that and to be testing things out. There's all sorts of tools that fit perfectly with Google Analytics or even with Google Analytics 4 that can enhance the analytics that you're getting to come into it. You can also set up different types of permissions. So if you're using an agency like us with Kavanaugh Media to come alongside of your ministry, you can give us permissions. But let's say then you bring that in-house or you want somebody else to do it. Well, it's easy to change who does that. And that's really important because I've noticed that there's times where people get certain others to help them, and on their site. And there is a risk involved to that when you're adding people to your Facebook account, or you are bringing somebody into your ads account or to your analytics, where maybe you don't continue to partner with them, or they leave your team, or who knows what. You want to own your own data and control who has access to that. So it is just really a powerful tool, and it lets you see what is happening on your site. And there's three things that we're going to talk about today. The setup on it, all of that, I'm going to show you here in just a second. But there's three major parts of Google Tag Manager. First one being tags. Tags are the parts that you do that are the coding part. Tags are little snippets of code that are used in your analytics or other types of tools that you may want to integrate into your website. And they're these code snippets that then enhance what's happening. When you use these code snippets, then that's how let's say somebody scrolls to the bottom of your page, it's getting passed through to Google Analytics and brings up other pieces of data to you. So these are tags that can be placed in the head or the body. There's all sorts of different places. Google Tag Manager, though, itself is going to want to be placed in a certain location, and then you place it on your website, and then you can add all these other tags within Tag Manager, and your website's not getting updated there. You're not having to do anything over there on the website itself. Triggers are the second thing that are used within Google Tag Managers, and that's when the tag, the code, fires. So it makes sense. It's a trigger. When somebody does something, so let's say the page loads, that is a trigger that then fires off that tag bit of code, sending a certain variable or a certain response to, let's say, Google Analytics. So the triggers could be only on certain pages or when a certain thing is done. So they're really important. Okay, these are your tripwires of when something happens. And the third part to it is your variables. And variables they relate both to your tags and your triggers, but that's the specific information. That's the value. Maybe it's just a one that it's happened. Maybe it's an ID. Maybe it is a specific event code or a trigger code, like they click the Android Bible download button or the iPhone download button or whatever. There's a lot of different ways to do that. The variables can be user defined, so you can create your own variables as well. So all of these things work together: your tags, your triggers, and your variables. And so probably the best way to explain this is to dive into it and just show you a little bit about it. And I'll try to talk through it here as well, so that if you're just listening to the podcast itself, well, then, you're not going to be missing out, hopefully. I do hope that you'll watch it. I hope it's a benefit. But if you're just listening to the audio, no worries whatsoever. All right, so we're going to get started with Tag Manager this week. And then in next week's show, we're going to dive into it and really look in detail. So I'm just trying to get you started today. If you want to work ahead, fantastic. If you want to work ahead and have questions, send me a message about it, and I'll address it in next week's podcast. So let's look at the actual Google Tag Manager. Now, to do that, you're going to go to tagmanager.google.com. All right. And within tagmanager.google.com, you're going to need to create your account. So with a lot of Google tools, they are just automatically available with your Google account. With this one, you need to sign up for it specifically. All right. And so when you do that, you're going to log in, and then it's going to ask you for an account name. And so put your ministry name, put your location on there, and there's lots of different ones that you could choose. On this one right here, for our Kavanaugh Media one, we're working in the United States. And then you're going to create a container. The container is obviously what that sounds like. The thing that holds your tags, your triggers, and your variables. That's what's going to go on your website or the server, because you can do server side, which is something we've done to help us with our pixel tracking. If you're using an app, you can use that. If you're using AMP, which is accelerated mobile pages, you can do it there. So you're going to create your container, and then you're going to click for where you want it to be used for. So if you're doing it on your ministry website, your evangelistic website, then you would click web, and then you would just click the create button. Now, once you have Google Tag Manager, you're going to need to install that. And to do that, it's going to give you the code to put that on your website. And so if you look in there to your admin area, it's going to have a place where it says, what is your container name, your container code. It's going to show you the settings. And then there's a specific place where you can install Google Tag Manager. Now, here's another cool part of it. You can import containers. So if you have more than one website that you're using, you can dial in your Google Analytics, let's say, and your enhanced Google Analytics here with Google Tag Manager, and you can save that container and you can use it then on your other website. So you can import them as well. Now, installing the Google Tag Manager is going to give you two pieces of code. One that you can copy and place as high up in the head part of your web page, and there are tools to do this if you're using WordPress or whatever. Right? There's enhancements there that you can use to install this, and then there's one other bit of code that you want to use to put in the body of your tag. So it's really simple to put that on your website. There's also a place where you can click then to give the user management of who's going to do what and what permissions have you given them. All right. And so all of these things are really valuable tools to help you be able to control what is happening on your website. Now, great. When you get this all set up, you're going to see a page that says new tag, now editing, live version, which one you're using, all sorts of stuff. And when you look at it, you can see, well, all right, here's what's been happening. Here's workspace changes in the free version, which is one of the reasons why I like this Google tool. You can have, I think it's 3 different workspaces. I have one basically that I'm using. When you get into it, you want to create your tags and your triggers and your variables, right? And when you're doing that, the first place to start then is the tag. And there's 50 different tag types that you can do. Here's the ones that we're using right here. We have our Facebook pixel in there. We have scroll tracking. We have our Google Analytics 4 tag. We also have a universal analytics tag that we have used for different clients. We've done ones for their videos as far as YouTube videos or Vimeo videos of how much did they watch, did they play, did they pause it. There's a lot of different ones that you can do. So when we're creating a tag here, what you're going to do is you're going to click on new tag. And when you click on that, it's going to bring up a page that just says untitled tag, tag configuration, and triggering. So you've got to set up the tag and you've got to set up the trigger, what's going to do, what, and when. So when you click on tag configuration, there are tons of ones that are already ready to go. You have the Google Analytics ones that you can use. There's Google Ad ones, Google Optimize, which is a great tool to be A/B testing on your website. You can do custom code, custom HTML. So even if you don't see a trigger or a tag, or you have something like a type form that you want to install on your website only on certain pages, let's say, or different things, you can do that right here in Google Tag Manager. Custom image tags. And then if you scroll down, there's a ton of other ones. Here's Crazy Egg. Here's Hot Jar that you can use. And there's even more of them in the community template gallery. So if we were going to create one, let's say it's a Google Analytics 4 event, I would just click on it. And then it's going to ask me for what kind of tag do I want to do. It's a GA4 tag. I can name it. This is where the parameters, the user properties, the advanced settings come into it. We're going to look at more of this. This is next week, okay? But like here is one where you can set up when it fires or how many times it fires, the firing options, the sequencing of that. So once you get all of this set up and you're going to need to name it, then you would click to the trigger and you can say, where do you want it to fire? Do you want it on all pages? Do you want it only on the home page? And this is also where you can add triggers to it. So if you click on a little plus sign, it's going to be in the top right, you can find other types of triggers. So these are when they have, let's say the page has been viewed, or the DOM, which is the specific things that are happening as soon as the page starts, whenever that's ready, when the window's loaded, when somebody clicks on something, when something happens like here's the form submission, or the scroll depth, or the YouTube video, or a custom event. You see, all these things can happen. Or maybe it's just a timer that you set up. Once they've spent so much time on your page, then fire this. So there's a lot of triggers that can happen. Once you have your trigger figured out, then you're going to have to figure out what is the variable that's going to get sent through. Now, the variable depends upon what your tag is and your trigger is as well. So if we wanted a page view event to fire on all pages, we could do that, and then this would be named, and we would save it, and it would go back in. All right. And if we do that, then here's an example of one, a GA4 tag that's going to come up. This has our code that's going into it, and this is firing our page view, all pages, and sending that in. All right. Same thing with your Facebook pixel. You could do that. You could have your Facebook pixel installed using Google Tag Manager. You can do the Facebook messaging. Facebook Messenger, if you have that on your website, you can install it and trigger it only on certain pages using Google Tag Manager. There's a ton of stuff that you can do once you dive into it, and we'll look at some of those in more detail next week. Now, I hope that this is just whetting your appetite. Next week, we're going to look at some specific use cases, some ways that it enhances Google Analytics 4, and so I hope that that will help you. If you're not using Google Tag Manager, I would love for you to be looking into it. Play with it a little bit. If you have questions, reach out to us. We can't be tech support for everybody, and there's a lot of stuff we're learning as well. But if we can help you, we will try our best. If you have been using Google Tag Manager already and you have some use cases for your ministry that you have found that it's been really valuable for you, I would love to hear about that. Let us know. Just send us a quick message through our website saying, hey, this is one way we're using it, or whatever. And we'll protect. We're not going to say, Joe Schmo or wherever. We'll protect your identity, but we would love to hear from you, because that's what makes this tribe, this group of all of us working together, so valuable, is that we can learn from each other. And we can make mistakes, and we can get those scars, but we can also have those small victories, and we can start to see movements, Lord willing, in your local context. So I hope that this is a benefit to you. If it is, then I would love for you to subscribe to our YouTube page, subscribe to the podcast, give us some good reviews. If you have bad reviews, don't leave them. I don't want to hear those. I would dwell on those kind of things. But if we're benefiting you, then let us know. If this YouTube training is something that's going to benefit you, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're just getting started with that. But some of these channels in 2022 are going to be important to us. We're going to do a lot of that, all right? And so we would be hoping that you will be watching those, listening to the podcast that comes out each Friday, Lord willing, all right? So until next time, keep pushing forward, keep testing, keep looking to see what's the Spirit doing, what is happening in your context, and if we can ever help you, please let us know, all right? So until next time, let you know this, please, that we are praying for you. We appreciate you greatly, and we look forward to the day when Jesus comes back and we together can celebrate in his presence and worship him together with the people in your context, with the people where I live, and all around the world. Until next time, take care, and God bless.